What he's saying.
Again, it's not on Monday. It's a Trevor Tuesday instead of a Matich Monday. Trevor Matich is joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline. Trevor, let's start out by asking you the Twitter question. How would you define the 2016 football season?
One of the most gratifying seasons and performances in recent memory.
Wow, and he did it in one sentence.
He did it in one sentence. He took it literally. I like it.
Just what we asked. You had a chance to watch very closely that Poinsettia Bowl against Wyoming, Trevor, our old rival. What do you make of BYU's win over Wyoming in that Poinsettia Bowl?
I thought it was a different way than they've won some other games. It was a gritty fight the entire time. A lot of things weren't going well a lot of times, and Wyoming has got a lot of outstanding players. Keep in mind that Wyoming beat Boise State and eventual Mountain West champion San Diego State in the regular season. This is a very capable team. And this particular game, BYU didn't win because of a stout defensive performance that looked pretty, or an offensive explosion like against Toledo that looked pretty. They had to win this game in the ugliest fashion, where the meanest guy who wanted it the most won. And so that's one of the things that made this gratifying, to pick up their 9th win in a way that was unexpected, and yet they did it anyway.
Trevor, when a schedule comes out, we all do this. We look at it, okay, well, that should be a win, that should be a loss. Okay, that's probably the toughest, that's the maybe the easiest win. But you were on the ESPN radio call of the St. People yesterday as Mississippi State got the win on a blocked field goal. Was the win over the Bulldogs the best win of the season for BYU?
I think on paper, very possibly, in part because while Mississippi State had some issues, they also have got some outstanding players on offense. Nick Fitzgerald, who is going to be Dak Prescott there. He's just a sophomore. But in talking to the Mississippi State coaches, they say that he is ahead of where Dak Prescott was in Dak Prescott's sophomore year. And he's a much better runner already than Dak. He's faster than Dak. He's bigger than Dak. And as a passer, he's about the same as Dak was at that time. And yet BYU held him to 2.6 yards per carry. He only had 41 yards rushing. This is Nick Fitzgerald, who they're saying is already a better runner than Dak Prescott ever was. And so for BYU to man up and to stop one of the SEC's most effective, big, bludgeoning, running quarterbacks and stop him cold, I thought was a fantastic performance.
Trevor, in your role, you see a lot of great backs and have seen them throughout this season. So you know the types of running backs that are coming out this year into the NFL draft. Where does Jamal Williams fit into that group?
I think Jamal Williams will be a steal in the draft. There'll be a bunch of guys going ahead of him. Dalvin Cook of Florida State, Leonard Fournette of LSU, Christian McCaffrey out of Stanford, likely to go ahead of him. But whoever gets Jamal Williams will have a guy that I think will have every bit the career that those other guys will, because he's a big, powerful runner. He's a guy that will grow in blocking and in the passing game, and he brings an infectious, positive spirit to your locker room. And I've got to tell you that there are a lot of general managers in the NFL that draft for that these days. One of them's in Washington. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Washington, because they have a need for a guy like Jamal Williams. Scott McCloughan is their general manager, and he says that one of the features that he looks for is somebody who loves the game of football, not just the benefits that come with playing the game, the money and the notoriety and the reality shows, etc. And Jamal Williams is one of those guys who truly loves the game. He loves his teammates. He loves the process of it. And so I think he will end up as a guy that will be a very effective running back for a long time for whoever is fortunate enough to get him.
You know, Trevor, we always talk about, which programs send guys to the NFL. And, how important do you think it is for the BYU football program that Jamal be successful, and not just Jamal, but any player from BYU? How important is it that they have success at the next level?
It's helpful. It's really helpful, because players anymore, recruits, they want to get to the league. Now, how you do in the league is up to you. But if the more guys that can get there, stay there, and then have their names out there, especially when they're introduced on Monday Night Football, because they always say the college, that matters. That matters to recruits. And so one of the things that negative recruiters will say is that, look, if you go to that place, they don't send very many guys to the NFL. Gee, there's got to be a reason, huh? Wink, wink. And so it does matter to recruits that they feel like they can get to the league from the platform in Provo, Utah.
You know, let's switch to the most important position on the field.
Says a quarterback.
Wait, I'm talking about center. No, I'm talking about quarterback.
Oh.
What would you like to see? We got brief glimpses of Tanner Mangum in this new offense this season under Ty Detmer. We saw him start and finish the Poinsettia Bowl. What are the biggest things you need to see from Tanner Mangum as he works during this offseason? What does he need to improve?
You know what? I want to see Tanner Mangum or Bo Hodge or whoever. I think there'll be a competition for quarterback. I wouldn't be too quick to say it's going to be Tanner's job. But I think there'll be a pretty good competition there. But what they need to do is bring more of an NFL mindset to the quarterback position, more of a mindset that you had, Blaine, when you played the position. And the thing is, I mean, I hope people. I always want to remind people, because I know they remember, that in that Holiday Bowl in 1984, when Robbie Bosco got hurt, Blaine Fowler came in and didn't just hold it together, but kept the ball rolling while Bosco was in the locker room getting his knee taped up like a piece of wood. Well, Michigan was trying like crazy to cause you to make a mistake, and you didn't, Blaine. You were one of the heroes of that game and one of the heroes of the season. And the mindset that you had is the mindset that Tanner Mangum or Hodge or whoever else starts at quarterback will need to have, and that is to understand not only your own offense, but just as well study and understand the opponent's defense. In this year, under the first season of Ty Detmer's offense, we didn't see a real effective passing attack. We saw some pretty good throwing from time to time. But a good passing attack in this kind of offense requires a quarterback to know pre-snap pretty much where he's going to go with the ball, then confirm it in the first 1.5 seconds after the snap, and then get the ball out get the ball out on time to a spot. And so like a sewing machine, like just a rhythm, it's like drop, step, throw, where when that ball's in the air, you just know in your heart it's going to be completed. It wasn't that way this year. And why would it be when you've got, the first year of a new system? But next year they need to be closer to that. It needs to be closer to a precision machine like you were helping to operate, Blaine, when we won that championship in '84.
Well, let me tell you, Trevor, it's really easy, and it would be really easy if next year these quarterbacks had Trevor Matich, Craig Garrick, Lewis Wong, Dave Wright. Who am I missing?
Robert and I.
Oh, and Robert and I. How do I miss Robert? The one that told me I wasn't ever going to get touched in the bowl game, and it was his guy that actually touched me. But
That's funny.
but you put those 5 guys up in front, and now you're in business, because that protection is where it all starts for that quick passing game. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. I think we only had, 9 or 11, something like that, sacks the entire year that year. And BYU has always been able to recruit a certain kind of guy. They could always get big guys on the offensive line who could drop anchor. They could always get a quarterback who could throw the ball. And they could always get smart, tough linebackers. And from there, you sort of build out from there. But this offensive line now, I think, is kind of back to where they kind of want to be. They lost some weight. They became really cross-country runners for the go fast, go hard, which worked. It worked well. BYU dominated the fourth quarter. But I think now you'll see more of a pro style there, and it fits in to one of BYU's recruiting advantages because they've always been able to get those guys.
Trevor, last thing for you before we let you go. The college football playoffs are inching closer. Of the 3 other college football playoff teams, which one, Washington, Ohio State, or Clemson, do you believe matches up best with Alabama?
I think Clemson does because they've got what's necessary. The formula to beat Alabama this year is 2 things. One, a good enough defense to hold the score down like LSU did. Alabama's offense is pretty good, but it's not great. Number 2, a passing attack that can throw the ball on rhythm into tight windows to receivers that can go up and win a fight for the football. Clemson has both of those things. Washington, by the way, does as well. The question is, will they be talented enough to get it done? Because remember that Mike Tyson once said that every fighter has a plan until he gets hit in the mouth. Well, Clemson has the best plan and the best players, but Washington has the plan too. The question is which one of them will perform as well with their plan when they're hit in the mouth by Bama's defense.
Trevor, great stuff as always. Appreciate the time, and we'll be watching and listening as you continue stuff with the college football playoffs on ESPN. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jason, and thank you, Blaine, for giving love to the O-line. That's one of the reasons we always loved you.
I'm telling you, you guys were my protectors. You took care of me. And by the way, on Twitter earlier, they were making me talk about how much I loved how, as a center, your butt was up really, really high, and I didn't have to squat over that much to get it. And they were like, "Do you touch Trevor's butt?" And I said, "Probably as much as anybody else in his life. I've touched Trevor's butt."
Yeah, that's actually, that's actually true, and if it were the truth, I would say that was one of my best experiences at BYU.
I got to say this, though. That's why you and I are buddies for life, forever. We're forever tied because a quarterback and a center have a special relationship, and you and I always, always will. Thanks, Trevor.
And there's a relationship of trust that you cannot abuse with stupid jokes.
Exactly.
That's right. Hey, there's no better way to end an interview than on that note. Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Trevor Matich joining us on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial